Welcome back to the Coalition for Marriage YouTube channel. If you are tuning in for the first time, especially warm welcome to you. You might like to click that subscribe button to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. And also, if you want to join in with our free newsletter, pop across to the website and click that join button. Now, as a guest today, for the first time, we have a former government minister. It's a huge privilege to welcome the Right Honourable Sir John Hayes, MP. Sir John Hayes, wonderful to have you talking to us. Would you like to say hello, first of all?
Yes, hello. Nice to be here and nice to speak about these important subjects.
Now, looking at your biography, I think you've had maybe 5 government minister roles. I think, is it 6 shadow cabinet roles? And I think you've been in Parliament since 1997. And did I read somewhere that your seat is the safest seat in the country? Given your strong views, your social conservative views and your strong views around things like real marriage being between one man and one woman, how have you managed to survive so long and do so well in your career?
Interesting question. So let's deal with the point you made about constituencies and the support I have there. That's really about authenticity. People want politicians to be authentic. They want them to be straightforward about what they think. And they want them to be genuine in the way they deal with those they represent. But I think there's also an issue around how you prosper in Parliament. So that really was about the same kind of thing. It was about being very straightforward about what I believe. So I was never equivocal. Governments are formed of people drawn from all kinds of aspects of a particular party. So when a Prime Minister chooses their team, they want to make sure that all the different opinions and interests within the party are represented. And if you're pretty straightforward about what your interests and opinions are, and you're reasonably bright and diligent, there's a fair chance you're going to be accommodated on that basis. I was on the front bench for 19 years.
Your authenticity is interesting. I think it was October 2018 when Comres did an anonymous poll among MPs, and of over half of those who responded, they said that they didn't feel able to speak their mind. They were too afraid to do so on certain matters, and then presumably too afraid to vote how they really feel.
I've always said what I thought, and I've always voted the way that I believe. There have been very few occasions where I felt pressured to vote for something I didn't believe in.
That's a lesson for others to learn, I think. You've taken a great stand for marriage. Could you take us through perhaps a couple of occasions where you think that your view on one man, one woman marriage has made a difference?
Well, of course, I voted against gay marriage. It was a free vote, but nonetheless, given that I was closely associated with Cameron, I was a member of the government, and I'm still not in favour of it, by the way. In terms of promoting marriage, I've obviously worked closely with other colleagues that tried to ensure that marriage was elevated in the tax and benefits system. The significance of marriage is a key building block in civil society, a way that allows children to be brought up within a secure environment, but one which has built high expectations, which are testing, but nonetheless allow them to come to terms with all of the challenges which they're likely to encounter in the wider world. I've promoted marriage in argument, in articles, in speeches throughout my time in there. I don't think that's done me any harm. If you're straightforward about what you believe, people know you're doing what you think's right. Even if they don't agree with you, you have a good chance of gaining their respect.
So, John, in a democratic society, people should be able to live the way they want to live within the law. But when the evidence is so astonishingly clear that growing up with your mum and dad in a married relationship gives you the best advantage and best start in life as a child, and it's not marginal, the benefit, why don't governments generally want to get on the bandwagon and promote it?
I mean, you're right. What I've learned as a father is that children want predictability and stability. They want to know what the boundaries which they can operate are. They want their parents who establish those boundaries. And from that predictability, they glean their sense of security. And you're right, that allows them to then to go and prosper. And to answer your question directly, I think there are 2 reasons. One, because there is a fear of causing offence. We seem to be very nervous about offending anyone. So we want to devise policies which are all things to all men. The second reason is there is this curious emphasis in modern society about personal and individual interest. It's often presented as choice, but it's actually about the promotion of individual interest as a primary driver of policy. I take the opposite. I think that actually through the sacrifice of self-interest to something more noble, people derive the deepest sense of fulfillment. And parenthood, of course, is all about that. So the liberation of self-sacrifice is a very unfashionable idea in the modern world. I think it's a philosophical problem in that we've lost the understanding of the character fulfillment through sacrifice, and it's a practical problem about governments and ministers that want to be all things to all men.
Have you got any positive news for us? Is there anything that would encourage supporters of real marriage?
I mean, the battle goes on. I've got bad news and good news, if you like. So should I give you the bad news? So the bad news is that one of the worst bills I've seen introduced to the House in recent times, this new bill, which I voted against, by the way, to make divorce easier, because you have to actually make divorce harder. That's not to say, of course, that there aren't good reasons for being divorced. Of course, it has to be a testing process by nature. And why are we so frightened of recognizing fault? The good news I see in the latest intake of MPs, many people who share our sentiments. So I've established a common sense group of MPs, which I'm chairman of. I set this group up. I have a colleague in the Lordstown Forum. We attracted large numbers of members of Parliament to support it, and a lot of those from the 2019 intake. So the new MPs that have come in the so-called red wall seats, many of them share my perspective, our perspective on the importance of traditional values, and in particular family and marriage. And they share many other values. They're patriotic. They're unafraid to speak about the traditions that mark this country out. They're not guilt-ridden about our past, and they're optimistic about our futures. Family stability, the social solidarity depends on partnerships, unions in the form of marriages, which are the building blocks of the common good.
It's really exciting to think what might be coming out of that group in the not too distant future. A lot of other people who feel the way you feel aren't in quite such secure positions in life. What advice would you give to people perhaps who want to stand up for what they believe in terms of real marriage, but are just too afraid to say anything at all for fear of either losing their job or getting publicly vilified?
Well, I mean, in the end, we're all answerable to our own consciences. You know, when you get to the end of life, you have to ask the question, did I do what I thought was right? Being true to yourself means not ducking these issues, but standing by them. The other practical thing is that there are always more other people than you think that share these views. It's true what you said earlier, that some people may be reluctant. It doesn't take long once you prick the surface to find that beneath the veneer kind of liberal ideas, there is a silent majority of people who share the views of the Coalition for Marriage. There are enormous numbers of people waiting for someone to speak out. And I've had countless letters since I formed the Common Sense Group, people from all over the country on all kinds of issues saying, thank goodness that at last someone is standing up for what we believe, speaking the silent majority. Suddenly, silent majority is silent no longer. So my message would be, when you speak out, don't think you'll be alone.
It's not hating or fearing anybody. In a democratic society, there are lots of laws to allow people to do lots of different things, have different sorts of relationships. It's just the fact that the relationship that a man has with a woman for a lifetime in a marriage relationship, it's a special, unique thing which needs to be protected and identified with that uniqueness, because it's profound and it's above and beyond anything else that can be formed. That's all. That doesn't mean that other things aren't valuable to the people involved and shouldn't be respected in a democratic society.
Well, it's a covenant, isn't it? So this is between a partnership and a covenant. People form all kinds of partnerships. They form business partnerships, but a marriage is a covenant. And of course, it is different, therefore, by definition. It is a different kind of union. And of course, the union between man and one woman, the idea of creating a new generation. Now, of course, it's true. Some people can't have children. Some people choose not to have children. But what's understood is that the union between one man and one woman is the essential building block of procreation. And that's about the perpetuation of species, but it's also more romantic about the continuation of a culture and by the way, in addition, of a family. We pass on to the next generation all we've learned, and through that generational connection, we're also made humble. We know that what's come before us and what will come after is much greater than the few years we spend on Earth. So we're made humble by that recognition. We know that the difference we make is not just about what we can do in the 80 or 90 years we're here. It's about what we will do for our children, will carry on beyond us.
Something bigger than us, profoundly of greater meaning. than ourselves or even our own feelings and desires. You're absolutely right. Final question for you, because I know you're very busy, Sir John. What can people do either to support people like you in Parliament or just to support the promotion of real marriage in society?
Well, the challenge that I would make, and it may seem very simple or straightforward, but let me tell you, it is profoundly important, is write to your local paper on a regular basis. Write to your regional paper, ring the local radio station when they have a phone in. It's surprisingly easy to get on local radio, local television, and in the local papers. And thousands and thousands and thousands of people watch them, listen to them, and read them. Now, social media, of course, is another issue. I'm very skeptical and doubtful about social media, but it does exist. If you can't quite bring yourself to ring the local radio station or write a letter to the local paper, which is infinitely preferable, you might choose to use social media. The commitment I ask from people watching this is set your stall out now. Over the next 12 months, I will do that half a dozen or 10 times. If everyone that tunes in to this interview did that, the difference they made would be enormous.
Would you encourage people to get involved in other areas of civil society more generally?
Yes, write to your MP, go and see your MP. Stand for the local council, get involved in the local. As a local MP, if I get 5 letters on something, I take a great deal of notice of it. If I got 10, I think I've got a real issue. If I got 25, I've got an emergency. Now, that's not quite true. But I'm making the point to give you some feel what it's like being in it. I see every single one, by the way, of the letters I get many hundreds every month. On an issue like marriage, I get 5 or 10 or 20 or 50 letters on an aspect of policy, a bill before the House, so on and so forth. Everyone is seen. Everyone gets a reply and they make an impact on it. And I'm no different to any other MP. Don't feel you can't influence people by your activity. You certainly can.
Excellent. That's a really good point to end on. Can I just ask, is there anything on your horizon that we might be interested in? Anything you're looking forward to doing?
Continuing the work of the Common Sense. As you know, we published online a book of essays very recently. We'll be publishing a hard copy of that as soon as we can do so. It's actually called Common Sense. We call the book the name of the group. It's got a subline which is Policies for a Post-Liberal Society. So you'll see there's a collection of essays in that book. One of them is actually on these issues, written by Fiona Bruce and David Burrows. We want the government, as it starts to come to terms with its post-COVID purpose, to have at its heart the aspirations, the hopes and fears of that silent majority I talked about earlier. And I look forward to doing more and more work of that kind.
Can I thank you for all you've done? I think from your reputation, you put the word servant very well into the meaning of public servant. So thank you for all you've done. Thank you for all you are doing. Sir John Hayes, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.